Can't plan for everything, but you can be ready for anything. That's where we come in. Northwest Insurance Agency covers the wait, what? Moments in life with real coverage, real people, and real fast help. We offer sombrero-style coverage that protects your possessions, your loved ones, and everything else that fits under a sombrero. Call us today for a quote at 855-887-5656 or visit us at nwagencies.com.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I am Billy Embody. Thanks for joining us. We're presented by our friend Mark Villasana and Northwest Insurance Agency, 214-352-5656. We've got a packed show for you guys today. We are going to lead off with some U.S. Open coverage as Bryson DeChambeau gets ready to defend his title at Oakmont. A huge weekend for him, of course, getting ready for a Thursday morning tee time before teeing off in the afternoon on Friday. We'll have Brody Miller joining us to break it down, golf writer for The Athletic, and we'll get him on the podcast here very, very shortly. And then we will also be joined by Bett Shelby of SMU women's basketball. And of course, we'll wrap things up with a little bit of buzz on recruiting and things like that to close out the show today. So hope you guys enjoy this kind of all over the place podcast, but we'll be jumping in very shortly, and we'll go to Brody Miller in just a minute. But do want to remind you guys that we're also presented by our friends at Manny's. Manny's Tex-Mex, 4 locations across DFW. Make sure you say queso queso when you get your bill to get 10% off your food. That works for dine-in or carry out on your food, whether it's their Coyton Campbell location, Lakewood, Saxe, or Heath. They've got you covered at Manny's Tex-Mex. So make sure you head over there and enjoy a great margarita, enjoy their patios, and most importantly, their tremendous food. So appreciate Manny's for supporting us at the On the Pony Express podcast. But let's jump in here to our interview with Brody Miller, breaking down the U.S. Open. Joining us on the On the Pony Express podcast now, Brody Miller of The Athletic, good friend of mine. Very, very nice of you to give us a couple minutes of your time on a busy Wednesday at Oakmont, day before the U.S. Open gets going. Brody, how are you up there? What's the scene like?
Well, first off, thanks for having me, my good buddy Billy, one of my favorite people. It is a pretty awesome week here, man, at Oakmont. Oakmont is, I mean, as you know, it is arguably the hardest course in all of golf, especially, and probably definitely the hardest course of all U.S. Opens. And it's been 9 years since they've been here, and it's just wide open, beautiful, no, only one tree on the property. And it's just like true, simple, just evil golf of you got to hit fairways, you got to find greens, and if you're in that rough, you just have to take the loss and pitch out. And it's beautiful to watch. It's sunny. It's nice. It's a really good week at Oakmont.
Yeah, historic U.S. Open venue this weekend as Bryson DeChambeau looks to win his third. And let's dive into that a little bit. SMU podcast here. So, of course, going to talk a little bit of Bryson with you to lead things off, and then we'll get into the field and kind of how you see things maybe playing out. But what is it like following around a guy like Bryson DeChambeau for a living at times? And then how does his game factor into Oakmont?
Absolutely. I will say, first off, yeah, to your first question, it is pretty surreal to see. Yeah, I mean, we're used to like Tiger Woods getting big crowds and Rory McIlroy and Jordan Spieth getting big crowds. But Bryson DeChambeau has evolved into something else that I don't think I've ever seen in terms of this just absolutely beloved cult figure. It's not just like we want to see him. It's like, no, like it's a movement. They live and die for him, and it's pretty unbelievable to watch. And following him, I mean, yeah, it's really cool to, he is a fascinating human being, and he is somebody who is always pushing things and always thinking about things and how they work. So he is constantly a fascinating person to cover because, like when he gives you an answer, he genuinely thought about it and thought about it more than any of us have ever thought about it times 10. And he is so fascinating that way. In terms of him this week, I would say, and also in terms of covering him, the coolest thing I think about the last 2 years is how much he has proving us wrong. Sounds like a weird way to put it, but like we knew what he was, right? He was this really good, really long player, and it was, hey, maybe he's got his weaknesses. Maybe he's not the best when things get hard. Maybe he's not the best when, he needs a short game or his irons. And what's been unbelievable the last 2+ years is seeing how many different kinds of places he can go and adjust now, and then and go thrive. The Augusta National was always his biggest bugaboo, and then he goes and he leads through 2 days to last year, and he finishes 6th in 2024. And then this past year, obviously, is in the final group going to Sunday and finishes T5. And I think what I was so impressed with both at that Masters this past 2 months ago, and also his win at Pinehurst, quite frankly, which is obviously the biggest win of his career, is that he did all that when he wasn't really playing like amazing golf, which tells me way more about Bryson's evolution than all of the good weeks could do. Because, I knew he wasn't going to win at Augusta because he just wasn't hitting his irons well, but he was in it every single week because he was just getting up and down from every spot. He was making every tough par save. It was pretty gritty and unbelievable. And I don't think we ever would have said 5 years about Bryson that he is a gritty golfer, and that was really cool. And I think that's also how he won at Pinehurst. He was a little erratic at times. He was so the famous bunker shot is the best example. He just made the tough up and down. That's how he won on Sunday while Rory couldn't. So I think that's why I preface all of that, apologies, to say him at Oakmont seems in some ways like a great match, in some ways like a terrible one, because he is distance. And this is there are a lot of U.S. Open venues. He even said it yesterday in his press conference, like Winged Foot, where he won in 2020, where you can vomit and gouge. You can find the rough and then figure it out. You can't at Oakmont, right? If you find the rough and you don't, 80% of the time, you just have to pitch back in the fairway. It's that bad. And the greens are that hard where you can't just easily get up and down. Up and down is a tough ask. So I'm so fascinated to see, can he control the fairways, which, he's capable of doing. He's not that inaccurate, especially when he wants to be accurate. He usually can. He can tone it down when he needs to. But he doesn't on paper seem like the perfect fit, but his distance will also make those brutal greens seem so much easier. That would I pick him as a favorite this week? Probably not. But I've just learned these last 2 years that he will make adjustments more than people give him credit for.
What is he going to hit on 8? Pitching wedge?
Great question. I know. God,
for those that don't know, the eighth at Oakmont is 295 yards, I believe, measuring this week, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think we saw Colin Morikawa hit a driver on it during a practice round on Monday, and it's that's kind of the norm. Yeah, I don't think we asked him that yesterday. It's a failure by us. Yeah, I feel like you got to go 5 wood for him, right? That feels right.
When you spoke with people around Scottie Scheffler, kind of shifting gears here, you talked with them about his focus to become a great putter. And of course, Scottie, a touch relevant for SMU folks in Dallas. Of course, Scottie is a Royal Oaks guy. So you talk about your story that you put up at the Athletic as well about his evolution into being one of the great putters on tour.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so easy to kind of because of how good he's become again and how dominant he's been the last year and a half, it's kind of easy to now quickly forget how much of a weird year 2023 was. 2023 was we were writing about it at the time of this is the best iron season we have literally seen since Tiger Woods. He was finishing third, second, or fourth every week for 3 months straight. And he just lost each tournament because he would lose half a stroke on the greens putting. It was truly bad. It wasn't just they call him Morikawa, right? Where it's he kind of lets him go. It's no, he's losing tournaments on the green. And if he could just be average, he would win every tournament. And then he hired a new putting coach. He'd been with the same coach, Randy Smith, Dallas, as working at Royal Oaks for 20 years. And they finally agreed, all right, we're still with Randy, but let's go reach out to Phil Kenyon, the putting coach. And they made subtle things, right? Grip changes, changed how they do lines, changed how they didn't lean on the caddy for green reading anymore, things like that. But very subtly last year, we saw him go to finally being an average putter. And the line was true. The second he became average, he won 9 times last year and had the best year we've seen in 20+ years. But what we didn't expect was that it would keep getting better. And it's pretty unbelievable. And I think the grip change happened, I believe, over this past winter. And I don't know if that's the reason. It's probably more complicated than that. But he's now objectively good. He is the 9th best putter in the whole world on strokes gained. That is insane. And I think the stat that I use that's even more insane to me is if you rank all the top tee to green guys in the world, right? And that's that's where we find out who's really good, right? It's tee to green. if you go on that list, you'd have to go 108 names down to find a tee to green player who putts better than Scottie Scheffler. So that means, like, in a weird, bizarre way, Scottie Scheffler is kind of the actual best putter, like right now. And that is a scary, insane thought. Obviously, it's not absolute. Like, he has his flaws on the green still, but the fact that he has turned that into a strength is one of the most terrifying things ever. And it's why, like, when people make Tiger comps, obviously they're dramatic. He's not Tiger Woods. No one will ever be again, and no one will ever win at that rate again. But that kind of trait of, like, hey, I have one flaw, now I'm really good at it. That's Tiger stuff right there, and it's pretty unbelievable. I don't know if that means he's going to win this week, but it's why he's a plus 275 at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, we've not seen somebody favored like that since Tiger. And you look at this field for the U.S. Open. When you have a course that is this difficult, that is fabled in how evil it is, and has the history that it does. With, I believe, 4 or 5 guys under par that last time they were at Oakmont. How do you go about picking who your favorites are? Forget the betting favorites on this one. Who do you see as standing out?
Well, you know me, I still like to think of the betting favorites.
Of course.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's a great question, because it is like, because some parts are so hard, you can't tell if, like, certain strengths actually just get neutralized. So, like, like, sometimes the line is like, when a putting green's so hard, like Pinehurst was, and I think, like, this will be, it's like, does that make it all just kind of a wash? Like, the great putters are going to putt poorly too, so, like, being a bad putter doesn't matter. And it's obviously not that simple, but it's like, you start asking those kind of questions, and it's so, like, you get so in the weeds of, like, what actually means you'll be good. And honestly, Bryson at Winged Foot's a great example. I remember that week vividly, that, like, the big thing everyone talked about was short game, because, like, that rough and all that. And it was like, actually, no, Bryson could just go really long and, like, just figure it out. And like, so, like, it tricks us sometimes into what we think will win. Actually, him at Pinehurst, he was the opposite of what we thought the fit was there, and he won. So I think what I'm looking for is, I do want accuracy off the tee. As much as, like, that's a cliche that's been proven wrong in a lot of U.S. Open venues, I think this is the one that disproves that. I think long irons are a big thing here. So, like, your Morikawas all of a sudden look really good because they're accurate and they're great with their long irons. A Ludwig Oberg, I think Texas Tech guy, so still Texas. I think he would be an interesting fit in that sense. And then, yeah, like, I'm going to contradict myself, but the putting is obviously something. It's not like I need you to be a great putter, because I do believe it might be a wash. I just don't think I want to pick somebody who, like, has been putting before. I don't think you're just gonna, like, figure it out.
Right.
So by that sense, it's like, I think Scottie deserves to be the favorite. After that, I do like Ludwig. I mean, his form's been a little erratic, so that scares me, but I do like him. If you want, like, some longer shots, I think Harris English checks a lot of boxes of, like, he is a really good long iron player, and there's some stats that, like, I don't have access to, but somebody has shown me that, like, there's a certain stat that the advanced guys have of, like, strokes gained on greens that run faster than a 13 on a stimp meter. And Harris English and Ludwig are both really good at them. So I think those are 2 guys, like, I'm kind of intrigued by at longer odds. And then the other one to watch, I'd say, is, like, Xander Schauffele, because he's been erratic this year, I think it's fair to say, since his injury. But the best version of Xander is, like, made to win here. He's accurate. He's great with, like, unbelievable with long irons, and he's a really good putter. So, like, he should be amazing. I just don't know if this version of him is going to be as accurate. But yeah, those are the 3 things I usually look at here.
Love it. It's going to be a fun weekend at Oakmont, of course, for the U.S. Open. We'll see if Bryson DeChambeau can work some magic again. But before we let you go, Brody, you have a new book out, The Year of the Tiger, the major run that made Tiger Woods. I already picked up my copy, looking forward to reading that one and diving into it. But what went into it, and what's kind of the brief rundown for those listening on the book?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of this book is really, it's not just like a, hey, let's look back at someone doing something really cool. I think for me, what really sold me to it was, we live in an era, right, where, like, we are so obsessed with prodigies. We want to find the next, the Connor McDavid in hockey, who's the next Tiger Woods in golf, who's the next, the Bryce Harper in baseball, LeBron, it goes on. And we just are so obsessed with, like, the next teenage thing. And golf has them more than anybody, right, with Spieth and Rory and Scott and other guys like it. And Tiger, I think what we miss about that is a lot of these guys live up to being really good. I was so interested in this time when he wins 4 straight and wins the Tiger Slam. He, going into 1999, he had 1 major. He's like 24, had 1 major. It wasn't like he was already, like, Like, think about that. That's not that young. It's not like I think Spieth had 3 by 24. Rory had 4 by 25. Like, he wasn't like on the pace already. And there's that moment in time where that prodigy goes from like, I'm really good to I am actually transcendent. And how does that happen? Like, how do you make that jump? What is it about you that then gets to that level? That's what fascinated me the most about doing this book. And I think that's what makes the book, I hope, a fun read, is like how different he was, how he literally was a Masters winner and just decided, I'm actually going to redo my entire swing at 22 years old and figure it out. So I had 2 average years, and well, average for him, I should say, years. Like, and just winning a major, and then the next day, like, friends calling him being on the range at 9 a.m. because he just like didn't like something in his swing. There's just something different about him. And that's the difference between the guys who are like this great prodigy that has a nice career and the great prodigy who like becomes Tiger Woods. And I think that's what makes it a worthwhile.
All right. Beautiful stuff, Brody. Very, very happy for you. Continued success, and enjoy Oakmont this weekend. What a place to be.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. It's great to catch up.
Hope you guys enjoyed our conversation with Brody Miller. But first, we do want to remind you guys about our friends at StatusJet. StatusJet.com is where you can go to get more information on what they can do for you for football season. Round trip flights do get a discount when you mention On the Pony Express. So make sure you do that today. Reach out to David Henry and his entire team, and they'll help you plan the trip of a lifetime with our friends at StatusJet. So great work there by them. They'll get you there safely and with a level of attention to detail that you'd expect from a private jet company. So reach out to them today. Start planning your football trips or that last-minute 4th of July trip. So appreciate our friends at StatusJet as well for their support of the On the Pony Express podcast. Before we get to our interview with SMU women's basketball assistant coach Bett Shelby, do want to talk a little recruiting with you guys, and then we'll close out the podcast with an interview with Coach Shelby. But SMU is in the middle of camp season as well. And just to kind of reset the table for you guys, they're going to host a couple of top-tier quarterbacks on Thursday for camp. And so wanted to highlight 2 guys they're going to have in Dallas on the Hilltop. And one of them is Malachi Ziegler out of Benton, Louisiana. He's been on campus multiple times. He's one of SMU's top targets in the 2027 recruiting class. 4-star quarterback who sits in the top 100 nationally on the On3 industry ranking. I think he's matured a lot as far as a passer, and physically he's really developed into a grown adult, it seems like, just from his approach to playing the position to how he's navigating recruiting and more. SMU's made him a big priority, so he's going to be back on campus for camp. Getting a chance to work out with De'Aaron King and the staff in person is big. And they'll also host Carson White, one of the top quarterbacks in the state of Texas. And he's coming up to get a return visit to SMU. He was on campus earlier this year, getting a chance to spend some time around the staff when it came to the spring practice time. And they were able to watch some practice and get around the coaching staff. I think if you're looking for 2 early bets on the 2027 class as far as who could end up an SMU Mustang at the quarterback position, these are 2 highly recruited and highly touted guys that have offers from all over the country that are going to be at camp on Thursday. We'll have your full coverage at ontheponyexpress.com, so make sure you subscribe for just $1 as well, and we'll have you covered. We are going to do a lot more kind of diving into maybe some of the ACC and looking at those programs around the league and kind of sharing where things stand this summer. Want to start doing some more of that, but this is a time of year where you're really focused on recruiting and, of course, digging up tidbits for you guys on summer workouts and where things are trending with the current group of Mustangs on campus as well. So make sure you tune into the site for more on that. And in 2 weekends, about 2 weekends, a week from Friday, we'll have coverage on the last official visit weekend for SMU as well. So it'll be a big time on the site for that weekend as Rhett Lashley and his staff are taking aim at a top 25 class. Right now, they are inside the top 20 or right at 20 or something like that. But they need to obviously hit on some of their top tier targets here to round things out on this 2026 recruiting cycle to finish in the top 25. They've got a few out there that they have their hooks into that sit in a good spot. It's about closing, though, this summer. So SMU will look to do that with a number of key targets as decisions approach over the course of this coming month or so before senior seasons. One target that they are hoping to close on is Landon Barnes, who is a 4-star top 100 prospect out of Duncanville High School. He did have a shift in his official visit plans. He canceled his Georgia official visit for this coming weekend and has now slotted LSU in that official visit slot, or is expected to, from what he told me. He's going to officially visit Ohio State next weekend. He does have a visit planned early in the season for Texas, and then he's going to make his decision in that month of September. So a major target that SMU is still very much in the picture for, from what he told me, and they are pushing hard to get him across the finish line. Just a number of kind of blue chip guys that SMU is swinging for late in the summer and really early into that senior season portion for the seniors that they are looking to get across the finish line. So keep an eye on him as well. Before we get to our interview with SMU assistant coach Bett Shelby, also want to remind you guys about our friends at the Thomas Auto Group. Head up 75 to McKinney, where their Ford, Subaru, Volkswagen, and Mitsubishi dealerships are. Learn about the Thomas Promise. And of course, when you mention On the Pony Express, you get employee pricing on new and pre-owned vehicles. So whether you need your car serviced or you're in the hunt for a new vehicle for your family, make sure you head up there and learn about the Thomas Promise today.
At Thomas Auto Group, the Thomas Promise includes the low price promise,
the pre-owned promise,
and the 72-hour exchange promise.
and finally, the 100% customer satisfaction promise. So shop Thomas Auto Group today, home of the Thomas Promise.
Now, without any further ado, we go to our interview with SMU women's basketball assistant, Bett Shelby. So hope you enjoy this chat with her, and we'll catch you on the other side of the break as we close out the show. Welcome back to the On the Pony Express podcast, and now very happy to be joined by one of SMU women's basketball's new assistants. I mean, you guys are all new, but Bett Shelby, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
You've been a part of this massive change in this program, and so much changing for you as well, personally and professionally. What's it been like getting here to Dallas and this process of starting a new program, basically? Yeah,
it's been a whirlwind, but it's been very, very exciting. We've worked really, really fast and hard the last 3 to 4 weeks to, secure the roster for next year, and I'm excited about these kids.
And what made this move to, continue coaching with Coach Adia Barnes the right move for you? And was there even a second thought, coming to Dallas?
No, I love Adia. I think she's a player's coach. I think our style of play is really, really dynamic and fun to watch. I mean, we're going to play up-tempo, fast basketball on both ends of the floor. We're going to defend 94 feet, press, turn people over, and get steals and that way. So I think the style of play is a great fit for the ACC. I think when you combine our location with alumni base, with value of degree, it's just an unbelievable job. Also, with our new administration, I was able to work under Damon Evans at Maryland, and I watched him just transform that athletic department, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do here on the Hilltop.
There's a bunch of different ways we can go after that. We can talk about, Damon. We could talk about, coming in and working with Coach and rebuilding this program up. But I did want to hit on, Damon Evans. What makes him somebody that, Adia's talked about it too, where she wanted to work for an AD like that and she wanted to be a part of it. What stands out to you about him?
What I've always appreciated about him is I think he played college athletics at the highest level. So he knows what it's like to be a student athlete at the highest level, the demands of that. And also I think he knows what coaches go through on a daily basis, just because he played for high-level coaches. But what I've always appreciated about him is how genuine he is and how much he supports all sports equally. I don't think there's a better AD in the country than Damon, and I think what makes him really unique is like women's basketball is just as important to him as football or men's basketball. We clearly understand how important those sports are and want them to be really, really successful, but he wants every team to win at the highest level possible, and he's going to give you the resources to go and do that, and I appreciate that about him.
You've been a part of the ACC before, so what's it like getting back into it? Is it makes it even more, more of an exciting time for you to be in this league? Yeah,
I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's the heart of the ACC. And I was around all the rivalries all the time. On Sundays, everybody's at restaurants and bars watching games. And I can't wait to be back in the league. I've been in the league twice before. There's nothing like it. The rivalries, the academic institutions the levels of the academics at these schools is very high. So you're recruiting high-level student athletes, and I think SMU is going to shine in this league.
When you took this job, what did you know about SMU? Did you know much?
I knew it was in a nice part of Dallas. I didn't know how nice. I knew we had great.
You rolled in from Love Field, and you're like,
wow,
okay, they weren't
kidding. Yeah, I knew we had great alumni support, but I didn't realize how great the support is, from just our administration to our alumni to our professors on campus. And then I think just like the networking opportunity for student athletes here in Dallas once they graduate. Yeah. You know, we just offer a lot that a lot of schools don't.
SMU, the men's side, has seen some great guard play over the recent years, and you know, a lot of the recent success has been built on that. You guys brought in a strong group for that backcourt, and Coach always talks about this being a guard-driven league.
Yeah.
How important was it to get, you know, ladies like Ty Skinner and Kyla Deck and all of those to come in?
Yeah, you know, I think you win nowadays with transfers and not freshmen. And we were really fortunate to get Ty Skinner, a dynamic scoring guard. She was very good in the Pac-12 and Big 12 at Arizona State. Averaged 18 points a game, I think, for them. And she's going to be able to create a lot for herself and others. Then you look at Kyla Deck, a fifth year from North Texas, who's from Dallas, who has just so much pride in being here and is just a dog. And I mean that as a compliment, competitor. Then you look at a Janiah Harrell from Stanford, you know, who's been in the league, can shoot the ball. So I think we did a good job of going out and getting veteran guards that will come into the league with experience, and I think that's what you need in the ACC.
When you look at developing a team as a whole, how important is that guard position? You know, everybody, you could have a great you know front court or post presence, but it just seems like that point guard is always the straw that stirs the drink.
Yeah, no, it's crucial. I think if you don't have strong guard play, especially in this league, you'll really get exposed quick. So your guards have to be able to be dynamic. They have to be able to be three-level scorers. They have to be able to make plays for themselves and others. They have to be able to create their own shot, and they have to be able to defend. The way we play, they have to be able to defend, get up and defend. So athletic, strong, dynamic, playmaking guards is what we're looking for, on top of being high-character student athletes. So I think we did a good job in the portal, and I'm excited about what this group can do.
Recruiting Dallas in the state of Texas, how nice is that for you guys?
I love it. You know, I've always been envious of schools that are located near Dallas or near Houston or, you know, one of those areas. And there's so much talent in this city, and we want to keep them all home, you know, and then the whole state in general. It's just a basketball place. High-level student athletes are here, so we want to keep them home.
What's a little bit of your background? How did you end up with Coach, and how did you come up through the game?
Well, I recruited against Sadia a lot when she was an assistant at Washington, and I was at Maryland. And there was one player in particular that we both were battling against for. And so I just kind of would see her all the time on the road because we were both recruiting this one high-level player. And then when I was at Maryland, Washington beat us in the NCAA tournament to go on to the Final Four. They had Kelsey Plum and just an amazing team. And Adia was an assistant there. And then from there, she went to Arizona, back to her alma mater. Yeah. And the program was in shambles. I hate to say it like that when she took over the job. Just had not won, really needed a lot of help. And I watched her just very quickly build them into a powerhouse, you know, and just do unbelievable things that nobody thought she could do when she took that job. So, we kind of reconnected when I was at West Virginia and she was at Arizona. And, you know, I had a high-level player from Arizona as Mary Martinez who went on to Arizona, but that she wanted to come there. And that's kind of how we reconnected. So,
what's the dynamic like on this coaching staff? You know, a lot of familiar faces, and you guys are all at the same time having to adjust to a new setting and a new school too.
No, I think with us, you know, you go through that every day. Something's always new. Yeah. But I think with us, it's just always about family. You know, Adia always has her kids around. You know, Salvo clearly is on our staff, and he's her husband. And then, you know, Coach Turner has kids. So There are kids always around the program. There's family always around the program. So I think we lean on each other a lot for support and do a good job collectively.
When you guys bring this team together, I know most of the team arrived and you guys had your first team meal. What's that like?
No, it's cool. You know, it's so new because there's not one returning player here. So like this morning, everybody has to learn the campus. You know, there's not like a veteran that can say, here, you go over here to eat. Or
not one.
Yeah. So, but I think the beauty of it is we're all new and we're all new together. Cool. They're new, we're new. So we're going to all lean on each other and help each other through this first year.
What are the goals of this summer for you? I know Adia really stresses the fundamental side of things.
That is absolutely it. I think getting the players used to playing fundamental basketball, our style of play, the tempo of it, the pace, so getting them in a high level of fitness and shape is really important. And then we'll be recruiting really heavily as well. Having a lot of visits in the month of June. And then July, we're out a lot recruiting. So it'll be a busy summer.
Well, enjoy it, and I know you guys will have no issue with the Texas heat.
I know the humidity, but it's great.
Yeah.
We're used to the heat.
Yeah.
So,
awesome. Well, you guys are bringing the heat so far. So thanks for joining us on the Pony Express podcast.
Thank you so
Bett
much.
Shelby, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Really appreciate Coach Shelby for stopping by and spending a few minutes with us on the Pony Express podcast. We're gonna do a lot more of those as the summer rolls on. SMU's been great about being open and giving us opportunity to kind of just set up camp and grab interviews as coaches and players are available. So looking forward to doing a lot more of that to close out this summer and, just get around some of these coaches and other programs around SMU. So hope you guys have enjoyed some of those different looks at programs, and we'll have much more of that later this summer. So hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Do want to remind you guys as well about our friends at AKM Turf and Greens. Get $500 off your project by mentioning On the Pony Express. Alex Carpenter and his team have done a terrific job. They helped out one of my friends with their side of their home, creating a level area where they can, kind of work in pavers so they can do some different projects for you. It's not just installing a putting green or installing a chipping area or reworking your backyard. They can do other things with your backyard and yard in general. So reach out to them today, akmturfandgreens.com, servicing the DFW and surrounding areas, and mention On the Pony Express and get $500 off your project today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of all over the place edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. Enjoy the U.S. Open this weekend, watching Bryson DeChambeau hopefully capturing a third U.S. Open championship. So make sure you guys stay tuned to the site as well. We'll be chatting it up all weekend, and really appreciate you guys tuning in as always to the On the Pony Express podcast. And of course, our friend Mark Villasana, Northwest Insurance Agency, 214-352-5656 is where you can reach him, get all your insurance coverage reviewed, and also talk some SMU football and basketball and whatever you want with Mark, a proud SMU alum. So appreciate his support of the On the Pony Express podcast. We'll catch you guys next week, I think, with another edition of the podcast. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU On3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.